This is Jasper.
And this is Randy.
This is Jesse.
We're joined by Jesse because he wanted to talk about Kill Bill. Not necessarily this one, but here we are. Nope. Not the one I like.
I'm happy to.
Kill Bill Volume 2 from 2004. Written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, based on characters by Quentin Tarantino and Uma Thurman. Starring Uma Thurman, David Carradine, Daryl Hannah, Michael Madsen, Gordon Lowe, Michael Parks, Larry Bishop, and, more people. Actually, not that many more people. It's got a smaller cast in this one. The bride unwaveringly continues on her roaring rampage of revenge against the band of assassins who had tried to kill her and her unborn child. She visits each of her former associates one by one, checking off the victims on her death list 5 until there's nothing left to do but kill Bill. Jasper, had you seen this before?
No.
Jesse, had you seen this before?
Yes.
Okay.
If he says no, I'd be really surprised.
I keep starting with you, Jasper, because specifically Kill Bill, the fact that you hadn't seen Kill Bill is the reason we're doing Tarantino movies this season. So, what did you think of Kill Bill Volume 2?
Well, first off, I got to say that I think Kill Bill Volume 1 was better. Volume 2, I like the art direction. I like how it started the black and white again, like they did in the first one. I kind of liked that, the enemies in this one kind of knew they were going to die. Michael Madsen's character was like, we deserve to die. There's a lot more one-on-one fights, one-on-one action, not the crazy 88. And I love how in this one they point out there wasn't actually 88 of them. And he's like, maybe they just like the name.
Yeah.
But this one, of course, with the first one, I was intrigued the whole way through. But there is a couple times in this one that I had to pause it just to check my phone. I didn't even do that in one because I was so captivated by it. But there is some very slow points in this one. But I like the fight, the one-on-one fights better in this one.
Okay.
Especially the one with her and Ellie was a really good one.
Okay, Jesse. Now we mentioned earlier that you would have preferred to join us to talk about Volume 1 because you like that one more. But what do you think of this one?
Yeah, my initial impression of the two was that I liked the first one better. And, part of that is because, that's where all the crazy bonkers vignette action pieces are, right? It's kind of a strange break the way that these two movies are broken up into the two volumes because, that first one, it's got some very iconic moments. And so when I think of Kill Bill, I usually think of Volume 1 for whatever reason. Even though this is where we get the payoff. This is where you actually kill Bill. So going into it, it was like, well, yeah, if I was going to do one of them, I'd probably rather do Volume 1. Having said that, it was kind of nice to revisit Volume 2 without Volume 1, because then I could judge it a little better on its own merits. Because, when I went in to see Volume 2 the first time, I already had a preconception about what Volume 2 should be like because I had seen Volume 1, and it didn't quite meet those expectations because you get a certain flavor with Volume 1, and this one's a different flavor. So I did enjoy it, and I think I enjoyed it more on this rewatch.
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with everything you guys said. And I too enjoyed this rewatch. I want to say I've seen the first volume many more times than I've seen the second one. And it feels like I've only ever watched the second one after having just recently watched the first one, like you said, Jesse. So it's kind of fresh it is good to watch it fairly fresh, separate of the first volume. But it is very different. The tone, the pacing is very different, almost to a point where once it does start kind of bringing in the Kill Bill fight scenes, because it does get there. It starts off pretty slow, and I don't necessarily mean in a negative way, but the pacing is pretty slow. Then we do get some fight scenes. They feel a little bit more out of place here because the directorial style then does kind of match like it did in the first one with a more kinetic camera and quick cuts. Of course, it's an action sequence, but a lot of this movie isn't that. It highlights the kind of strange juxtaposition that first Kill Bill had a little bit, but it was more balanced between the ridiculous over the top stuff and the more like serious tonal stuff. Whereas this is a lot of more serious tone with maybe 3 action scenes, like 3 fights maybe. I mean, who does she kill? She kills Ellie,
Bud,
but she doesn't even kill Bill or kill Bud.
Yeah, not really.
Ellie does, and he gets the snake bite. So, and then I guess the Pai Mei stuff,
Right.
but that's kind of it, which is fine. It's just it's a totally different tone. I do appreciate the style of this. He said, Volume 1 was like the legend. You're watching the legend of what happened, and Volume 2 is the more realistic stuff. Well, that doesn't really hold up, Mr. Tarantino, when you've got the grave stuff, which is ridiculous. Like, I like, the sequence when she gets buried in the grave, buried alive. It feels very claustrophobic. It is scary. How that resolves is so ridiculous, though. It's like, well, no, we're still watching the legend, because that's just not plausible. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's weird. It's weird, and it kind of highlights the issue with this taking a more grounded tone for the most part, but still working in that over-the-top kung fu action movie comic book logic,
Well, and Pai Mei is a legend. I mean, like, he starts by telling the legend of Pai Mei.
He's over 1,000 years old.
Yeah, before he goes and delivers her to Pai Mei, and I feel like that whole thing is over the top.
I have watched Volume 1 and 2 back to back a couple times. And
do they go together well? Because to me it seems like they are so tonally different.
It's rough. I mean, at that point, you're looking at an almost 4.5 hour long watch.
Right.
For the last 2 hours of that 4.5 hours to like suddenly drop the pace to where it goes. I don't know. It's weird. I kind of wonder. The Whole Bloody Affair is what it's called. Like, he's toured it around a couple times, where it's basically the director's cut. It's the whole thing, Volume 1 and 2 together as it's supposed to be. And there's stuff missing, there's stuff added, there's stuff rearranged. So I kind of wonder if some of this stuff would work better if it were cut more in with the stuff from the beginning. If basically, I feel like it would probably work okay if all the super like colorful, action-packed, kinetic stuff from Volume 1 was more evenly dispersed through Volume 2. I feel like that could probably work.
Right.
But it is weird to watch both going from one to the other.
I kind of get it from like a like using video game logic again. Like from a Mortal Kombat type of scenario, like you start climbing up the tower and the adversaries should get tougher. And so they should take more time, but it just seems like it went from boom, I'm dispatching an entire basically a dojo of people to I can't even take Bob down. Somebody else is going to take Bob down, which I thought was, I mean, like that's kind of an aside, but it's super interesting to me that there's only 2 people that can really get the drop on the bride, and that's Bill and his brother.
A shotgun. Like the dude just sat in there with a shotgun pointed at the door and waited for her. And that's how, like, come on, really? She's just going to charge, like, throw the door open and charge straight in? I don't know. Seems weird.
Yeah.
His whole story was weird. The brothers, Michael Madsen's character, where he's basically like really kind of pathetic.
Yeah. He just lets people push him around, even though he's
his boss character, his boss, that guy.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
the whole calendar thing was kind of funny.
Tarantino crafted quite he's a pretty memorable character, and like he's real enough to where you're like, I kind of know a guy like that. I could see that, Right. Just a real a-hole who says some weird a-hole things. Maybe it's still pretty close to how we envisioned the movie being laid out as a whole, but it definitely seems like a choice to put a lot of the flashy stuff up front and then more of the exposition-y stuff in Volume 2. I mean, Tarantino, even in Kill Bill, the first one, Tarantino's generally really good about characters just sitting there having a conversation, but still somehow like increasing the tension of what's going on, even if they're not talking about what's going on. And this movie doesn't have that all that much.
Right.
Maybe a little bit at the beginning where they're doing the wedding rehearsal, because you know what's going to happen, so you know there's a tension there. But I don't know. There's a lot of other stuff where there's not a whole lot going on, and it's not necessarily raising the tension in that way that Tarantino usually does.
Right.
It's kind of a weird one. It's kind of a strange one. And I will agree, like, almost all the memorable stuff is in the first one. But I guess that's the spectacle, right? I don't know.
Right.
What happened, Jasper? Did you burn through your G Fuel?
No, I'm just, I'm listening.
He's wrapped up in the exposition. He's contemplating the character of these men and women.
Okay.
You don't see this, Jesse, but I'm nodding with you. See?
Yeah.
I do love that.
Oh, yeah,
I do love the Pai Mei stuff, though. I love the Pai Mei stuff, but that's my bread and butter. That's straight up kung fu movie.
I want to be the guy that flips his beard.
I love the beard flip. Oh, it's so good. And I like the setup of the guy who's like, he hates Caucasians. He despises Americans, and he's got nothing but contempt for women.
Yeah. So it might take you a while.
Yeah. So,
That's why after he said that, I expected him to just come flying down the stairs and just stab her. I hate you!
I mean, I like the setup of essentially kind of the 1 inch, I guess it's the 3-inch punch, but the close punch. My problem with the whole grave thing is, even in the world of Kill Bill, to where this lady's been shot repeatedly and whatever, she just doesn't die. You can't dig yourself out of a grave like that. You don't have the leverage.
She Power Rangered through the
That's a good way to put it.
As soon as you can break through the coffin, she's able to just
she tornado spun.
She pulled a Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
And then she's accelerating through the dirt, but when she gets to the top, it's just one hand.
Well, of course, because you got to do the zombie hand out.
Yeah.
I was thinking at that speed, you'd and just fly out of it. But
I did enjoy the
Mysterio style.
I enjoyed the shot from across the street in the cafe where.
Oh yeah.
All of a sudden she comes covered in dirt, and you just see the dirt and dust just off of her into the light.
Yeah.
And just comes in, sits down, and it's just all super nice, glass of water, please. I don't know. The movie's it's so weird because the first one jumps around to so many different locations, and we talked about how some of them are super colorful. There's not the whole movie super colorful, but some of the locations are super colorful and this and that. And this movie is 95% desert. A big portion of it's black and white. When it's not black and white, it looks good. It's colorful, but it's all still desert. So it's kind of dusty looking and yellowy, and it's just got a certain look. And then at the end, she pops down to wherever Bill's at I don't remember where, but it's a South America somewhere. It just feels very minimalistic in a way compared to the first half. I don't know. Maybe it's not fair to constantly compare it, but then again, it's Volume 2. It's Kill Bill Volume 2. I think it's valid. I wish they would have released at some point, even though it'd be long to sit through. I wish they would release the whole Bloody Affair version, the whole cut. I can't believe they never have.
Yeah.
It surprises me. It exists. There's Tarantino. Like I said, it's played at places.
Usually when you have a problem with the third act, it's actually a problem with the first act. And so I wonder if that isn't true with this, where it's like we've said, tonally, we got such a different flavor. And it's did Act 1 really set us up for Act 3? Because I like Act 3, but it's so out of left field comparatively.
I think Tarantino's odd structuring throws a wrench into that even further, because a big portion of this is Act 1 stuff. We're getting the actual
oh, that's right.
We kind of got told
to what's the actual bloody massacre. How did it actually go down? Why did it actually go down?
Got Samuel Jackson for a little bit.
Yeah, just a real little bit, but
he's in the first one on the floor.
Was he actually in the floors? Because I do not. I forgot he was in this. Like that's how often I think that's how much Volume 2 stuck with me is I totally forgot he was in this. But you're right, he would have been. Would assume, because I do believe that it was all shot as one movie. Because Jesse was asking, I think before we were recording, if we thought if this was shot as one or if they shot and then took a break, like a Matrix type deal. But no, I believe it was all shot as one continuous movie. I don't know. In a way, maybe it's smart because it does feel different. And maybe that's the point. If he's like, well, if I'm going to have to split these up, I'll make a legit different movie. Like a separate, it'll feel like its own thing. I don't know that it does feel like its own thing or that it could, but tonally it is different.
Yeah.
But I feel like without the first stuff, if it was just this movie, this alone is kind of weak because it's missing key stuff that the first movie gives the story. Like a lot of the excitement. I think this plays on the fact that you've seen all that stuff. Well, you've seen all the excitement. So here's more. Let's just fill in all the backstory and all this. So I don't know.
What about that? What about the resolution? Is it satisfying? Is it weak? What do you think?
You don't get any other than a voice on a phone. Really, you don't get any Bill in the first one, and I think Carradine is pretty great in this. Yeah. I think he chews the scenery in the right way. I'll say that. So Bill is awesome. I think in this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He kind of makes this movie.
Yeah, he's a bad guy, but he plays it likable until he does a couple things where you're like, oh no, he's a bad guy. Like you can't trust him. The end is what makes me think of that. The whole bit with the daughter and the story of the goldfish story. Like I don't know. I like all that. During an initial watch, I was probably just generally disappointed with the resolution. But for me, I think the resolution works fine now. Mm-hmm. And maybe the slow pacing of this movie helps set that up. Because if you went to this resolution right after Volume 1, maybe I don't know how well it would play. I do know that in the full cut, nothing about the daughter is revealed till the end. So they don't they don't stop halfway through and be like, does she know her daughter's still alive? Like they keep that as like a secret, like a twist. They hold that twist till the very end. So that would definitely change the impact. Of it.
And I think she plays that pretty well. I mean, like as like acting that moment, I think the gut punch of it hitting her is legit.
For me, I think it works because the focus isn't on any spectacle of it. They have a little fight sword exchange while they're sitting in chairs, which I enjoyed quite a bit. Even though it's super brief, but she does the 5-point heart explodey punch thing. Yeah. And so even that like stops everything and the pace drops back down to 0. And it's all about emotional stuff. And I think the decision to like go to the last scene where Uma's like the girl's watching TV in the hotel room and Uma's like crying in the bathroom and then comes out and sits down to watch his TV. Like what a weird way to kind of end it. But I do like the focus on the emotional aspect of it. Trying to kind of like, even though, the story's over the top, even in this part, even in Volume 2, but focusing on the emotional stakes. Like, okay, she killed Bill. And like, because of the setup of this 5-point heart explosion thing, she killed Bill while he's still alive and they could sit there and continue to have a conversation.
It's the most Tarantino way to kill a guy.
Really, it is. And she's obviously like, even after it happens, she gets a look where it's like, yeah, she's glad she had to do this. But at the same time, she's still bawling and sad because whatever. It's emotional. They had a thing and his daughter and just everything. I don't know. I like to focus on the emotional aspect of it. That's such a Tarantino way to handle the conclusion to something as over the top as Kill Bill. And I think it works, but it's not a crazy 88 fight or anything like that. No. It's a story about a little girl learning life or death from a goldfish. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah. Well, and okay, so what do you think about the Superman spiel?
Oh, that's fun. And that's one of those things where I've heard that so many times where I don't recall if that started after this movie or not. But no, I think that's pretty good. I want to say this. I don't mean, I'm sure people have come up with that before, but this might be one of the first times that point has been made in like a mainstream thing, and I don't recall if I'd ever really thought about it like that before. But yeah, it's great. Where the Superman is unique in that he puts on a costume to not be Superman.
Right.
Jasper, what do you think of the end?
I thought it was a little strange. I kind of like how she figures out her daughter's still alive. He's like playing games with her, and then she has to act like she got, shot. But one thing that always got me in that last part is he's like, "How do I look?" And she's like, "Oh, you look good."
You look ready, which is pretty good. Yeah, it's a good wording.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was not as actiony as I wanted it, but I mean, it really kind of concluded it.
I mean, was it disappointing? Were you just like, huh? Or
I would say in a sense, yeah. But like I said, I wanted that huge
Crazy 88.
Yeah.
You wanted something like that. Yeah, there's not anything like that.
Which they weren't they weren't 88 people. They liked the name.
I do like the fight with Ellie, even though technically that's pretty short.
That was my favorite one.
Oh, it's so good. You get the reveal that she poisoned, like she did the most like underhanded way to defeat a great master, poison him, and that enrages her. But taking the eye out, the other eye,
and then there was the foot thing again.
I wanted to bring that.
But that
up.
was the foot thing stepping on an eyeball. So gross.
Holly was sitting right next to me as I was watching part of this, and she knows that Quentin Tarantino's got that thing about feet.
That thing.
And her feet in particular, and so like the fact that whole fight scene is her barefoot, and then the fact that she steps on the eye with her barefoot, and just knowing what that all translates to potentially in Quentin Tarantino's mind, it's just like it changes the flavor of the movie a bit, knowing too much about this movie.
Yeah.
I like how when she was walking away, she's still going insane in the bathroom. Like, where are you? You know.
She doesn't kill her, but she's blind, and that snake might get out. Who knows? I don't even think she realized the snake was in there, but
right.
That deadly snake's still in there. It's pretty brutal.
I will say Michael Madsen's character likes to throw things in this one.
Does he?
He throws the ladder.
Oh yeah, he does. I thought he was good in this. Star ratings. Who wants to jump first? No one? Jasper, you've never seen Kill Bill.
I'm giving this one a 4.
Okay.
I like the progress, how the movie moved. The amazing fight between her and Daryl Hannah was really, really good. Which I found out later, I guess they didn't like each other, Uma and Daryl Hannah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had to be put in different sides of the hotel because they did not like each other.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
And especially on the press tour, they couldn't be on at the same time. But anyway, again, disappointed with how the end kind of went, but also it made sense, So I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
How's your 3.5 star rating over there?
Son of a gun.
Wow. That's uncanny.
Jasper. So when are you just going to host the show and take over for both parts? You know what I'm going to rate it. You probably know what I'm going to say. So just you do my rants and my ratings and fill in your parts.
I'm working on the synthesizer part.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since you spoiled my rating for me, I haven't even rated this on Letterboxd. I am going 3.5. Why? Why, Jasper? Why am I going 3.5?
I'm not sure. I just feel...
Okay. Because I like it. I think it's good. The first one, I want to say I gave a 4-star, and this one, it's just not as memorable. It'll knock it down a little bit for me. And in terms of Tarantino, so it's kind of a slower paced movie. I don't know that it overstays its welcome because it still doesn't feel as long. It's over 2 hours long, and it doesn't necessarily feel that long, but it's definitely a slower pace. And I feel like he can do slower pace and still keep my interest level up, but this one I don't think does it as well. It's a little lagging in that respect compared to a lot of other Tarantino stuff. So, yeah, I don't know, 3.5. How about you, Jesse?
I'm in the exact same boat, a 3.5. I feel bad doing that, but it's based on my enjoyment level. So, obviously, I like it a little better than the Street Fighter, right? Because I feel like it's a better made movie, and it is. It's a better made movie. It's a better made movie than the last one that I was on this show for, True Romance. But I enjoy True Romance so much more. So that's why it sits kind of squarely in the middle, you know, like it's better than the Street Fighter. But for my money, I've rewatched True Romance so many more times than Kill Bill Volume 2. And I think Kill Bill Volume 2 is improved by the existence of Kill Bill Volume 1. And I think that it does a nice job of tying it all up. And I think the beats are amazing. There's some amazing things that go in there. But on pure enjoyment levels, it's just not my favorite Tarantino.
It's so interesting that I hadn't even contemplated really comparing it to Street Fighter, and it's just a whole different world of like quality compared to the Street Fighter. I think I would definitely watch the Street Fighter again first before revisiting Volume 2. Yeah, I feel like I get more enjoyment out of the Street Fighter, and it's not necessarily good enjoyment.
Right.
I mean, it is, but it's not like enjoying the quality of it like I would Kill Bill. But yeah, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it, but when I do think about it, I think I'd rewatch the Street Fighter sooner than I'd rewatch Kill Bill Volume 2.